Good morning. This is Laura Orsini coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona. I am the creator and host of the Summer Author Event. Coming up on August 16th at the Phoenix Center for the Arts, we are bringing together 33 local authors for a book signing and meet and greet event. And we're privileged today to be here live with Matthew Cerra, one of the authors, who is bringing out his brand new book, Empire's Awakening. So it is my privilege to talk to Matthew today and ask him some questions about his book. So Matthew, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And we'll just start with some softball questions. How did you come up with the idea for your book?
My book was twofold. Two different ideas came together to make it happen. The first one was back when I was in college. I had some friends who wanted to do a role-playing game and they needed a story idea, and for some reason they asked me to do it. So I came up with some main ideas and kind of like the basic idea of a world, to like a fantasy world, and eventually they ended up not using it. They all got busy with work and everything, but I kind of kept all the notes I'd taken lying around. I had an entire folder full of them, and then probably a year or two after that I started doing some personal blogging, and I had to write them as a metaphor. I just had an idea from a dream and I just kind of wrote it out like that, and one day I looked at both ideas side by side and thought, I have a really fun direction I can take this, and that's where the idea just kind of came out of those two other things I had just lying around, those two separate inspirations.
Excellent, excellent. So how long was your process from the time you started deciding between the two ideas and your finished book?
I think that probably took about a year or two to get all the ideas in and then start writing it. I was very limited in the time I had to write, so it's just like an hour a day I could just look at the notes and kind of start developing it out. And in all honesty, it was only supposed to be a single book. As you can see on the cover, it's the first of the volumes to come out. When I was going through and I began outlining further, I was both outlining and writing at the same time. So when I was starting those first few chapters, the later pieces weren't in place yet. But I realized I didn't have enough space in a single book to get everything done. So it went from one book to 3, and now to do everything in this world, I'll probably have to have 6 books to get everything finished. I'm pulling a George R. Martin and Robert Jordan on that one.
Do you have a publishing?
Oh, what was that?
Do you have a publishing plan, like a timeline for the 6 books?
I would like to. In all honesty, the second one I had to take some time off for family stuff and some other projects I was working on. I actually ran for public office, which doing that takes a lot of your time. But I would like to get the second book done within a year from now. I'm about a third of the way through it, but it's going to be at least 40% larger than the first book. So there's a lot more to write. And then I would like to get them down to like a year, year and a half to get the book written, edited, and then out to publishing to get them completed. So at least on my part of the work, I can get them down to like a year or so. And I'm still looking at nearly a decade to write.
Okay, so when I talk, I hear me speak, and then there's a delay, and I hear it come back to me. So I'm hearing two conversations going on at one time. I don't know if the viewers are hearing that. It is new. So that's why you're hearing a delay from me, because I'm waiting to hear that recording finish before I start talking again. So 10 years, that's an ambitious goal. Congratulations. And I did find you on Twitter. I didn't realize that the man running for office is the same man as the author.
Yes, it is the one person crazy enough to do both. Originally, that was created for running for office, but I kind of took it for this. It's like, well, I already have followers. Maybe they'll pay attention to this too, and eventually, I'd like to get back into that sort of work in the political sphere. So we'll see how that goes. But for now, I'm just commandeering it for my book.
So how close are you to your characters, Matthew?
You mean how close am I, as in will I protect them from death, or as in their aspects are something of mine?
I think maybe... Do you have a favorite character? Do you have a character that is based on somebody you know or somebody you despise?
I don't think I've put anyone I despise. I would say, though, that I think all of the characters I have so far have a little bit of me in them. There's always aspects of ourselves that can be a little bit more nefarious, and there's also aspects that can be much more positive, and there's different traits and aspects I've kind of brought into these characters. But I think my favorite character is probably going to be Massive. Simply because he's the character if I had to be one of my characters, I would probably be him. The initial plans for him were much different than what they became in my notes. So his role has grown more than I thought it would initially. So I think I accidentally began to show him favoritism in my writing.
I like what you say there about your accidental favoritism for your character. I am new to fiction writing, so it's a piece of I think that all fiction writers go through, and you want to develop your main characters equally, I'm assuming. So to show favoritism means what to you?
I think just the role I gave him, and I had an initial idea, an initial setup for this character, and then I realized through the scenarios that had been created, he had a greater role to play than what I initially intended. When I'm writing, I try not to put anyone into a situation that they would need kind of like a Hail Mary to get out of. So when someone's actually in danger, they may actually be in danger. There may be a chance of losing that character. It's not going to be, I always put them in these light situations. But I also don't want to get them written into a corner and have nothing happen with them. And going through that, this one I realized his role could be so much more than what I initially had thought it was. Like just coming to the scene and I was seeing in my head that I was putting down on the paper, it grew to be more than what I initially thought it was going to be. So as I came to that in my mind and in my writing, suddenly this character is more important than I originally thought, which is kind of strange when you think about it. As a writer, you're supposed to have all this planned out, but when you're going through and actually making it happen, sometimes when you see that event in your head, you realize that someone else has a bigger role to play than you originally thought they might.
So this is a good thing that you're flexible, and this is a test, because I really am hearing that volume twice, and I don't know what to do about that. So if anybody can send me a little note, I'd appreciate that. At any rate, Matthew, what are you reading personally? Who inspires you?
Ooh, inspirational reading. I think most recently I finished up Robert Jordan's works, and I had a friend of mine who recommended that back at like book 6 or 7. So I think it was the 14th book. Finally finishing that one. It was nice to see, and also being aware of what happened to Jordan during the writing process, and having someone else take over that writing and still continue that story. I'm not a critic of the work that was done with his replacement, so to speak. Brian, I think it was Brian Sanderson, I believe, did a wonderful job with what he was given. So I was very pleased with that work. But that's kind of the more recent writing style I've read and appreciated. I've also read all the Game of Thrones books recently, but I'm less inspired by the pure level of. There are certain details in my books that I probably won't get into that Martin can get into with some of his more intimate scenes and his detail with people being offed. But I definitely appreciate the fact he can go there and he can create those images and those events for people to appreciate.
I like the idea of you being a little loyal to your characters and don't like the killing off of them so much. So let me ask you a question about this is new for you, as I understand it. Is that correct? The whole writing and marketing of books?
The marketing part, yes. I've been doing lots of writing and creative writing for throughout my life. I actually, from the blog link I sent out yesterday, I'm not sure when that part started, but the actual marketing and getting out there and kind of selling myself, I'm a little bit newer to.
What are you doing to take your books to the readers?
Well, this obviously, and then the author event, I was looking online for different things I could do as a new author to kind of get in front of people and kind of be there and let them see how things are. I try to get book signings scheduled. So after the author event, I need to look and see what I'm going to do for my next order of books I keep personally, and then where I will go next to get in front of the readers and actually talk to them personally. I've also submitted some applications to a first-year media convention in Mesa. They're trying to get one set up there for October, and it's kind of our niche audience as a fantasy writer is the people that go to Comic-Con and the anime conventions and all that. It's like they're the ones who are going to be buying the book anyways, so why not be there with them? So that's kind of what I want to do to get in front of people, is get out to that niche audience, because they're the ones that are going to be out there saying, hey, I read this book, or hey, I met this author, and either they enjoyed it or maybe they hated something about it, but at least you're in front of people. You know, I'm okay with people hating something, because if they're hating me enough to talk about it, someone else might see it and enjoy it instead.
So you're of the school of thought that any publicity is good publicity.
To a point, yeah.
All right. So, what is your favorite part when you go out to these signings and events about meeting the readers?
Just hearing what they think and feel about things that have happened. As the writer, I have my own ideas about what's there, but what people see or what they get out of a scene can sometimes be entirely different. I have a friend who I lovingly call my first fan because he really was the first person who read any of it. And I've had conversations with him. I can't think of the specific scenes offhand, but he would read something and sometimes get a different idea than what I thought I had created, but then look back and say, "Oh, okay, I can see how you got that out of there." Like wouldn't like change the story, but just how they saw the world with what I had described or what I had picked for that passage. Seeing what he got out of it was uh, very revealing.
I really like that idea of um, not just connecting with the reader, but it reminds me of an artist friend, and she will paint, and people will come and tell her, "Oh, you meant this by it," and she's like, "No, I don't think I meant that." So that's interesting to me that authors have that same experience, that you were going in one direction, and your first fan came and said, "I got something else out of it." Is that more or less what you're saying?
Yes, it's fascinating to see because their previous experiences color how they receive what I've written. So my own unique perspective and all my experiences have created when I see a certain word order or a certain selection of words, this is what I imagine versus what someone else with a different experience will get from the exact same setup, so to speak.
So I have a little question. I had a conversation with some friends last night about reading the book versus seeing the movie. What is your opinion about? Have you watched Game of Thrones on TV? And if you have, do you prefer to imagine it in your head and not watch it, or have what you imagined confirmed or validated? Do you have a preference to watch or not watch the things you've read?
I enjoy both, and I kind of have a history of kind of straddling the line on those sorts of questions. I enjoy what I've read and the image I've created inside my head. Like that is my vision of what Martin was created, has created with his work. But it's also interesting to see how they have to work to adapt that to a different modality. The same thing happened with Lord of the Rings. I read all the Lord of the Rings books prior to the movies, so I was in a position where I could say, well, this is how it happened in the book, but no one would watch that. You know, someone would watch how they reinterpreted and kind of changed things for this show or this movie over here. So I can respect some changes when artists do them. I will kind of find myself as I go throughout kind of judging whether or not I would have made similar changes or if I approved or disapproved of those changes. But other than that, it's kind of how I kind of look at those.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of material in 20 short minutes, and we'll do the best we can in terms of editing. The last question I have, I think you've already addressed for the most part, but I do want to just ask if you have any other projects that you want to talk about.
Actually, yeah, it is one of those. I do have other ideas bouncing around my head other than like this one series. My original plan when I started writing these books was to kind of take this world and different historical epics. So I have a couple ideas bouncing around for stories that occur later on. I actually have to fill in the gaps because I have one for like a future high-tech era. I have an idea for that period of time in this world, but I have to kind of fill in the gaps. I don't want to jump all the way to high technology and miss out on like the Industrial Revolution. Like, what would that look like in my fantasy world? But the other project I have on my plate that I just started doing some research for, I went to the library and got some books out. But I have a terrible, terrible, terrible fear of zombies. It's a very hilarious fear. It's completely irrational. Thankfully, I'm not that scared of snakes or going outside, or I'm not claustrophobic, but I couldn't make it through more than 20 minutes of Zombieland. And the trailer Life After Beth, I could not finish a 2-minute trailer because the apprehension and tension just gets to me so much. But I have an idea for a zombie story. And so I've started doing some research into the different groups. I got one, it's something, I don't have the titles handy, but it's basically the people that trained the initial representatives that worked for the CDC. They did basically going through all the little stories behind the scenes about what these individuals are doing when they went out and tried to stop these diseases from spreading. So I'm basically learning a lot more about pathogens than I ever really wanted to know. And as I read it, I just want to wash my hands a lot, and I get very germophobic. So I read it in very small pieces. But that's some of the other work I have on my plate. I don't know when it's going to come out. I have an outline and like a path for the story to follow, like a very basic one. Not as heavily detailed as my current book and in its present form and all the other chapters, but definitely that will be coming out sometime when I can actually not be afraid to write those scenes out. Hence the name of my blog, being Zombie Fear. I used to use it for hilarious things that would go through my mind as I was afraid of zombies, like what sort of craziness would happen. So a lot of those blog entries people can go back and read and laugh about because I'm just reading those out as I wrote them, and like there are times I'm just nuts. This is ridiculous, but it was where my mind went.
I would say a fear of zombies is a bit irrational. I'm wondering about a zombies during the Industrial Revolution. You could combine your two ideas into one.
No. Anything to do with them. My fiance always makes fun of me because if that's the big thing now is the zombie stories, and if I wrote it and like it got made into a movie, I couldn't go, and that would be horrible as a writer. Like every other writer goes to the movie premiere, and I would be like, no, I can't go. But I'm sure it's great. I can't go. I would have no part in it. It's like, nope, just have fun. But no, it is a quite irrational fear, and some of my close friends enjoy making fun of it. Not so much as to like dress up as zombies around me because I really could not handle it. But no, that's just my very weird quirk, one of many quirks I have. But it's one of my more endearing ones for some.
So I'm reminded of the zombie walk I participated in by accident a few weeks ago. I was caught in the middle of it, and it felt like I was in a horror movie. I was standing on the corner in downtown Phoenix, and the mob was walking toward me, and I tried to get to my car, and they turned the corner, and I really felt as though I were being chased. But I don't have an irrational fear of zombies. I knew they were real people in makeup, so I was okay. And I'm also reminded of my favorite movie probably of all time is Princess Bride, and I have never seen the scene with the ROUSs wrote into the unusual size.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of people being bothered by that, but no, if I see the zombie walk, I look at the location to know where not to be. I would not handle that well at all. And yeah, no, that's it's like, where will Matt not be? You can rest assured I would not be in the center of that zombie walk area.
All right, Matt. So thank you so much for talking with me. Will you do me a favor and let everybody know your website and where your books are for sale?
My books can be ordered through any of the major retailers. You can go to Powell's Books, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. They're all on there. You can also just get them directly from me. I offer special customization and signage if you order them off my website. And I'm just using my blog at it's zombiefear.blogspot.com. And you can just go there, and it's got my old blog entries. It's got links to the my Twitter account, and like I said, you just order the book right off there as well. And whatever copies I have on hand, I will ship out to people with other special messages, and pretty much it.
Well, thank you so much. So that's Zombie Fear, ZOMBIEFEAR .blogspot.com. You can pick up Matthew's book and connect with him and follow his blog and musings about zombies. And you can join us at the Summer Author Event, August 16th at the Phoenix Center for the Arts. And the link for that is summerauthorevent.com. Thanks so much for being here, Matthew. I will get this edited and get best I can, and we will see how it turns out.
All right, sounds good.